Welcome to the Idaho Business Podcast, the only Idaho podcast focused on providing profits for Idaho people. If you love our state and love small business, you are in the right place. We interview local legends, learn business, and have way too much fun doing it. You're listening to the Idaho Business Podcast with your friend, host, and all-around great guy and owner of New Clean Commercial Cleaning, Spencer Ward.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the new year, 2022. I hope you guys are rocking it and dominating your weeks. We're here with Lance Millington from Colliers. Lance, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Spencer. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Great.
Before we get into your excellent introduction, I do have to say we are sponsored by Dale's Outdoor Advertising. Unfortunately, they haven't made their way up to Boise yet, so you wouldn't be able to take advantage of this yet, Lance, for up there. But Colliers spans throughout Idaho, so these guys could help. They specialize in traditional and digital marketing for billboards. And the deal with our podcast is if you sign up for a 3-month deal, anyone listening, and mention that you heard about them from the podcast, they will give you your installation for free or your first month for free just by saying that, just for being a listener. So give Rob a call at Dale's Outdoor Advertising at 208-232-6886. So give Rob a call. He's a great guy. He'll definitely help you keep top of mind awareness for you and your customers to look for you in the future. So, okay, let's get back to Lance here. Lance, we're ecstatic to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Lance was, he's an Idaho guy. He's an Idaho guy. He was raised over in the Blackfoot area, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
My roots are in Eastern Idaho. Yeah, it's great.
That's right. Went to college in Boise. Did a brief stint in Washington for your business, for more business experience and education there. Yep. And now you're at Colliers in Boise, specializing in offices, but as a real estate agent up there for commercial office space.
That's right. That's right.
But it's more than just, you've had a lot more experience than just being a real estate agent. You've been executive, part of executive teams and within like HP, Oracle, Underwriting Laboratory, some big names out there within the nation.
Yeah, that's right. I had the great opportunity, and I consider it to be one of my best career accomplishments so far, to have worked for those big companies, but been able to live in Boise, Idaho the whole time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And live where I want to live. So yeah, I spent about a little over almost 25 years working for those big companies. And, almost always my teams and the people that I either managed or was on a team with, or my customers and partners, were somewhere else. And so for a lot of that time, I was really well acquainted with the Boise airport. And I spent a lot of time traveling, a lot of time on the road. And every time I landed back home in Boise, I was just so glad that I was living in Boise, Idaho. And I appreciated and enjoyed all of those great experiences for all those years outside of this. But, about 15 years ago, a business partner of mine came to me and he said, you know what, let's think about maybe investing in some commercial real estate. We were both doing some residential stuff on the side, and, in addition to our regular jobs. And I said, what is commercial real estate anyway? And he said, well, I've got a couple of ideas here. So we went and looked at a couple of lots, and we found a really good broker who was willing to help us figure out our way through this. And we started buying and investing and building small office buildings. And that was 15 years ago. This turned out to be just a ton of fun. I just learned a lot. There's always more to learn, but I learned a ton in that experience. Got some great help from some commercial real estate brokers as we were coming up to speed and figuring all this out. And maybe about 2-3 years ago, I was just getting on the airplanes a lot. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I want to do this forever. What should I do? What could I do that would be different and that I could really enjoy? And I started thinking about that. My business partner said, we're having a lot of fun in this commercial real estate business. You should think about going into that. And I thought about that a lot. I talked to a lot of brokers. I got a lot of advice and just decided that that's what I wanted to do. And so anyway, I've had a great experience so far. I've learned a ton. And had some great clients and great experiences. So what I think is interesting where you started off, Spencer, is that I spent a lot of time talking to big companies about their investments in IT infrastructure and what were they going to do with this and that. And I think one of the skills that I developed, a lot of guys that have spent a lot of time in sales in their career, is figuring out how to understand what people are trying to accomplish with their business. And what are they really going? Are they trying to grow their business? Are they trying to stay the same size? Are they? And some people are actually trying to scale back their business. So not everybody's trying to be a huge business. And so I think one of the skills that I picked up, again, that I observed a lot, was being able to ask a lot of questions and figure out what people are trying to do with their business. And I think that that's translated really well into, commercial real estate, trying to understand what people are trying to do with their business. There's a lot of emotion, but there's a lot of dollars and cents and, pro formas involved in commercial real estate.
Sure.
So anyway, I think that's been helpful and it's been really successful so far.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. My listeners know that I've had a history in commercial real estate, not as many years as you have, or the experiences you have, but that was one thing that I feel like the difference between commercial and residential, and no offense to residential, but commercial, you're truly brokering deals. Like typically there's no set forms you're filling out. You are literally brokering a deal.
Yeah.
And that was the thrill when I was doing it. I'm sure the same with you.
Yeah, it's really dynamic. And we just finished a deal. It took a long time getting the deal done, but I had a client who was building just a brand new great office building for his business, and he had some space next to it that he was leasing, and a really great tenant that we found together. And toward the end of trying to negotiate all the last tiny little pieces, there's a certain thrill to that, and there's a certain bit of anxiety to that as well, right? But it really is about bringing two groups together, figuring out how to make something that really works well for them for the long term. So you're right. It is a little bit different. We don't have a lot of forms. We work a lot on phone calls and emails, and we document the heck out of everything. But
Yeah,
we're trying to broker things and find our way to a deal that works for everybody. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I like it. Well, being that you're specializing in office, and we are obviously going through a pandemic right now, and people are working from home, and there's empty offices here and there. What you know better than most people, and since Colliers kind of spans throughout Idaho, not kind of, but they do.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? What are the trends right now with office space?
That's a great question. That's like my party question. When I go to a party, people just want to ask that question. What's going on with office? Is there anything going on? And I will tell you that it's that answer and that question it continues to evolve. It's very dynamic. And, people ask me the question, are people going to go back to the office? Is office going to be a thing? And I tell them, well, people have been back in the office, some of them for a year and a half,
Sure.
Especially small businesses. Small businesses, they need to be together to collaborate. They're meeting with their clients. So a lot of them have been back in the office for a long time. There may have been a sort of a short time period where they were, very, very careful. And I think a lot of them are still very careful about, distancing and taking precautions and all the rest of that stuff. They're very careful. But a lot of these companies are already back in the office, are already functioning. Larger companies, we're noticing, are working it out. A lot of them are moving to a hybrid model where somebody may be in the office for 3 days a week or something like that, and then home office the rest of the time. That spaces things out a little bit, and also allows for a little bit of a different work-life dynamic and balance. So we're seeing a lot of that happen. And there are a few companies that have just said, we're not going back to the office. We're done with office. That seems to be a small minority. And those companies that are doing that, they're having to figure out how to train new employees and how to develop and keep their culture alive. And that's not easy when you're in a fully remote environment. So for those who decide I'm not going back to the office, they're trying to figure out how to build the rest of the important critical pieces around it. What's also really awesome, you mentioned the state of Idaho. If you look at nationally, office vacancy rates, they're at about almost 15%. I think 14.9 is the last number I saw a few weeks ago.
Okay.
That's a big number. You look at our side of the state over here in the Treasure Valley, we're at about 5.1% between Ada and Canyon County. That's pretty low.
Sure.
And that actually is pretty consistent across the entire state. What that shows is a couple things. First of all, we have a lot of businesses moving here, which is a great thing. We have companies that are, again, maybe a lot of the smaller companies that are okay with getting back to the office. They've figured out how to be safe and work with their employees and make that happen. So that's really cool. And again, that low office vacancy rate makes it so that it's a healthy market. If you drive around,
Yeah.
I was in Eastern Idaho a couple of weeks ago. There's new office buildings coming up in Idaho Falls, some in Twin Falls, and over here, they're everywhere, right? So I think that, people are pretty convinced that there's going to continue to be a really healthy business environment for office in Idaho. So they're continuing to build out great offices, and they're filling up, which is really
Sure.
great also. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question all that well, but I'm very optimistic about what's going to happen with Office, and I think that it's also going to allow both owners and investors and users and employees a lot of flexibility as they figure out how to make this thing work for everybody.
I like that. I like to hear that, especially for Idaho in general. That's huge for our economy. And just as a business side of things, and just as a development, as a employee development idea of, working virtually is all fine and dandy. And I think right when it all happened, everyone's like, "Oh, this is going to be fantastic." But then I've talked to many people, a lot of friends that have been in the virtual world. A gal that works for me within another company who moonlights for us, but works for the Shark Week and Discovery Channel for a full-time day. She is literally just going back to the office next week.
Yeah.
As of 2020, But what I think is that people miss that camaraderie, and they it's just like anything, you get that friction of people working together, and that's where good ideas come from. That's where better morale comes from. I just think it's fine to have maybe a hybrid model, but I think going full virtual, that's just my opinion. I just think it's not
Really
it's healthy.
Yeah, you are absolutely right about that. And I mean, a couple of examples. For a lot of my career, I lived in Boise, Idaho, but my customers and my team and everybody else was elsewhere. And after about 2 weeks, if I was home for 2 weeks at a time, I started to get a little bit
Yeah.
anxious. It's like I need to be out seeing people. I need to be, in an office. I need to be meeting with people and figuring out how to make stuff happen and looking people directly in the eye
Yeah.
instead of a Zoom camera. So I think there's a lot to that. And I think that's why, as this pandemic sort of wears on and maybe wears itself out a little bit, people are trying to figure out, how do I get connected? How do I make sure that I'm connecting? And I'm sure a lot of people have examples of this, but right here in our Collier's office in Boise, we came back a little more than a year ago, all very carefully done, planned very carefully. Everything's sanitized, people wearing masks when they're not at their desk, being super careful about it. But we're better when we're collaborating. I think that's the case with a lot of people. Not everybody. In some companies, like I said, they're going to try to figure it out. But for the most part, people are migrating to some sort of an environment where they can get together and collaborate, do things. So
I like
yeah,
it.
I think that'll be kind of what the future looks like, is some sort of environment like that. So
Well, that's fantastic. Well, what's some of the fun maybe projects you're working on right now, given the environment of office in Idaho?
yes, yeah, it's a great question. The one project I mentioned earlier was just a really great project, because there was an owner user who had been leasing space for a long time and decided he wanted to build his own building, and that was his first foray. He's in a totally different business. That was his first foray into being a commercial office, a commercial real estate owner. And of course, he had this extra space that he built onto his building to lease it out to have some extra income. And he didn't know a lot about commercial real estate. So he was much like I was 15 or 16 years ago, trying to figure out how to do commercial real estate. And it was really a really gratifying experience for me to go work with him. I was referred to him by somebody else that I know, and sit down and say, okay, what are you trying to accomplish? What sort of a tenant do you want over here? How soon do you want them here? What's your general thinking about this space in 5 or 10 or 15 years? And that was really an awesome experience, because again, he was like I was all those years ago, and we had a broker at the time that helped us learn it, and I think I've been able to do that. So that's been a really fun project. I've got another client that's in actual final process right now of getting his permits in place to build a really cool building in East Boise. It's going to be about 12,000 square feet. He has been in the business world for a lot of years, and he's leased buildings all over the country, and in fact, several places around the world. And he just decided, his roots are out here in the West. He came here and said, you know what, I'd like to be I'd like to get into the developer business. I want to develop some property. And he's been awesome to work with. And that's a really cool project, very unique, sort of modern architecture. And that's the kind of stuff that sort of gets me energized and is really fun to work with. And, clients that maybe need a little bit of help in just figuring things out is also, that's also a lot of fun. And I have a couple of clients who have owned office buildings for a long time. They know everything about it. I just have to go do certain things to lease up space for them. They know the language. They know what they want. My part of that conversation is finding the people, doing the legwork, and those are also really gratifying. I've got 2 or 3 of those happening right now as well. So, but what's interesting is that right now, for whatever reason, the last couple of months, and I could see out the next 6 months or so, are going to be a lot of these owner user people that have built new buildings. So a lot of new construction, which is just a ton of fun, and there's plenty of it going on out there.
The Idaho Business Podcast is sponsored by New Clean Commercial Cleaning. This is my company, guys. I'm telling you, I'm not just because I'm the owner, the creator of it, but we are a great company for servicing your janitorial needs, your carpet cleaning needs, your stripping wax needs, all your floor maintenance needs. We are there for you. And everything is backed up by the "we're not perfect" guarantee. And if it's pretty much if you call and we don't get a hold, you don't get a hold of us, we will call you back within an hour and fix the problem within 24 hours, or the cleaning's on us. So that is our promise to you. And if you call or go into the Idaho Business Podcast website, click on the New Clean logo and book a janitorial solution huddle with us, and mention that you heard about us on the podcast, you'll get 2 free 2 free restroom floor cleanings for your office for free. Tile and grout in your restrooms will be sparkling clean. And that's the offer. Tell you, take us up on it. You won't regret it. There's no strings attached. So go see them today.
This is the end of part 1 of a 2-part episode. Tune in next time to hear part 2.
Congratulations on spending a couple of minutes getting a little bit smarter, having some fun, and supporting the Idaho business community. If you're feeling the love, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you are.